Yesterday I tried to express my anger at the obscenity of that monster who killed his estranged wife and 3 beautiful children. I talked about how this crime offends our very purpose on this earth, and I said here and on Paul Murray Live later last night that we need to do more to lock up or somehow constrain any bloke who threatens violence against his family, let alone one who's actually already done physical harm. We're failing at this task, and little children, precious little children with everything to live for, and a mother who cares for them, are all taken away in the most despicable circumstances. I also said people need to be very, very careful indeed when talking about family court matters and the stresses and strains of separation and custody battles, because you never, ever should consider a moment that there could be any cause, any mitigating circumstances when it comes to this kind of monstrosity. And I played some comments that I found very disturbing, uttered only minutes earlier by Inspector Mark Thompson of the Queensland Police. We understood the strain he was under, but these words jarred immediately. I brought them to your attention yesterday because there's no way I could comprehend someone actually holding, let alone expressing, these thoughts.
To put it bluntly, there are probably people out there in the community that are deciding which side, so to speak, to take in this investigation. Is this an issue of a woman suffering significant domestic violence and her and her children perishing at the hands of the husband, or is this an instance of a husband being driven too far by issues that he's suffered by certain circumstances into committing acts of this form?
Look, as I mentioned yesterday, he tried to explain his words later, saying he just wanted to get every bit of information possible from the public, but that didn't cut it with his superiors, and today he was taken off the case.
I want to sincerely apologise for the comments that were made. It was an officer trying to explain a process and then had a little bit too much to say about that. I phoned the officer this morning, and as you can appreciate, he is distraught and gutted because of the way he explained it. As I was suggesting and asking him that he needed to step aside, he actually volunteered and said for the integrity and the confidence of not only this investigation, but us in policing, he needed to. And I totally agreed with that.
Surely this is obvious. Think about what's gone on here and ask yourself whether you could ever conjure circumstances in which such an evil, premeditated act was ever even close to understandable. As I said, it's an obscenity. Which brings me to someone I've come to know in recent years and have interviewed on this program from time to time, someone I've defended at times because her contrarian work has often triggered social media, unfair social media pile-ons. But Bettina Arndt's comments about this are indefensible and beyond the pale. Even in the cold, hard light of the following day, she welcomed those horrible words from Inspector Thompson, words that later saw him taken off the case. Arndt tweeted this morning, "Congratulations to the Queensland Police for keeping an open mind and awaiting proper evidence, including the possibility that Rowan Baxter might have been driven too far. But note the misplaced outrage. How dare police deviate from the feminist script of seeking excuses and explanations when women stab their partners to death or drive their children into dams, but immediately judging a man in these circumstances as simply representing the evil violence that is in all men." This is horrendous. This is evil violence, and it's not in all men, it was in that perpetrator. How can anyone even contemplate that this diabolical act can be explained by someone being driven too far? Look for triggers, sure. Look for ways this rage could have been noted or controlled. Look for ways his family could have been better protected, perhaps by his incarceration, given his previous behaviour. And yes, perhaps point out that we ought to be just as damning of women who commit these terrible family murders. But consider he's been driven to this? No, this can never, ever be countenanced. This is making the monster a victim. And this is sadly, and it can only malign the victims. Look, I had a pretty fraught conversation with Bettina Arndt this afternoon because I don't like to criticise publicly people I know without fronting them personally first. Her key argument is that we should react to male murderers the same as female murderers and vice versa. The kindest explanation is that being under siege in the culture wars, so often subjected to social media pylons herself, Arndt's adopted a siege mentality and might have lost some perspective. Yes, mothers murder children too. They are monsters too. But let's not diminish any atrocity because of some gender war. Let's just think of the victims. It's all about the victims. I could care less about the scum who's killed them.